Something that took me a surprisingly long time to learn as a business owner is this: rest is not the opposite of productivity. Now, sometimes it can be the thing that actually helps us to make good decisions. And that can feel quite an unfamiliar idea if we've come from teaching, because so many of us were almost trained to do the opposite, to keep going, to push through illness, to prioritize the needs of others before our own. And very often we carry that mindset straight into tutoring. Hi, I'm Jane, and if you're a tutor who's trying to build a business that works alongside your life, not against it, then you're in the right place. You're listening to the Tutor Edit, and I started tutoring face to face in local libraries when my son was small, and that led to me growing to teach international students online and eventually helped me to build a team of over 60 tutors who now help to support students worldwide. Each week, I share reflections from my own business and the conversations that I have with other tutors, not to tell you what to do, but just to pass on what I've learned through lived experience so that you can make intentional choices about a tutoring business that fits your real life. Now, if you've come from teaching, uh, and you have come into tutoring, there is a mindset that many of us bring. And that mindset is about endurance. Teachers are incredibly dedicated people, but the culture often rewards pushing through. You go into work when you're unwell. Avoid any time off because it's easier than setting cover. You may prioritize the needs of everybody else above your own. And while that dedication is admirable, it can also be absolutely exhausting. It may well be the reason or one of the reasons why you've chosen to leave the classroom in the first place or are planning your exit. The reality is that when tutors start their own business, the same mindset often follows us. We say yes to everything. We fill every available slot. We answer messages late at night. We keep going. And before we realise it, we've just recreated the same pressure that we were trying to leave behind. Now, I had a huge shift over the summer, and we were fortunate enough to spend the summer travelling around Thailand with my family. Now, I took that time away from the business and it felt like a huge decision. We still had lessons happening and taking place over the summer holidays because of our international client base. That is kind of how we work and the kind of rhythm that we are in. So there were still lessons taking place and it was a huge decision to go traveling. But something really interesting happened. The business was fine. Yes, there were a few hiccups and, not everything went smoothly, but the business did not collapse. It was absolutely fine. Lessons happened, they took place. We booked lessons for the next academic year while I was away. Families were still there. The world did not fall apart because I stepped away for a month. And that experience, and I'm very aware that it's a very privileged experience to have and an opportunity to have, but that has absolutely changed the way that I thought about rest completely. Because when I came back in September, I felt completely different. My head was clear. I had clarity like I've never had it before. I was able to make some really big strategic decisions about what I wanted this year to look like. And I was so much more able and well placed to see what was actually moving the business forwards and what was actually just keeping me busy. Because I wasn't there, I was just left thinking, well, what on earth have I been doing? Because this is running and I'm not actually doing all that much. I was checking in for an hour every day in the evening and just keeping things moving. I had admin support who was incredible and kept everything running in the background. But it did make me really think and evaluate, what have I been doing? Because I have been so busy. My days are full. I feel stressed. And it was just helping me to see what I was actually moving the business forwards. Because when you're constantly working, everything can feel productive. Your diary's full, you're replying to emails, maybe you're creating resources, you're updating things, you're ticking all those things off that huge list that you make every day. And all of that creates the feeling that your business is moving forwards. But sometimes what we're really doing is just keeping ourselves busy. And that makes us feel productive. It makes us feel like we are moving the dial because we are doing something and we're taking action. And I think that this is something that many tutors fall into. It's absolutely something that I did when I first started and still did up until a few months ago. Because we've come from a profession where being busy and working hard is absolutely normalised, we naturally measure productivity by the number of hours that we're working. But actually, businesses grow when we start measuring something slightly different. It is not just about the number of hours that we work, but it's all about the impact that those hours are having. And just taking some steps back to think, well, actually, what things are we doing that bring new families into our business? Which conversations are leading to referrals? Which systems do we have that are saving us time each week? Because once you start asking those questions, something very, very interesting happens. You realize that actually some of the things that you spend the most time on aren't necessarily the things that matter the most, because some of those tasks are filling your time. They might just be filling your time and keeping you busy, but not actually moving the business forwards. Now, that clarity led me to make some very intentional changes in the business. So, for example, when I came back, we invested in systems and automations that now save us a huge amount of time. We now have a CRM that has streamlined how we work with families. We send out proposals. We use that to manage communication with parents. We are keeping everything centralized so that we're not constantly searching through emails for everything. And that has made a huge, huge difference, not just in saving time, but my business is so much more efficient. It's so much more professional. It's so much more streamlined behind the scenes as well as in front of clients. Now, I know that not every tutor will be at the stage where you are investing in systems like that, but the bigger idea here is that rest creates the clarity to see where your time is really going. And there are lots of ways that tutors can start to bring in more rest into their work. Some tutors eventually delegate certain tasks, maybe to a virtual assistant when the business reaches that stage. Others set out clear working hours and, crucially, stick to them. For some people, it's about investing in well-being. It could be going for a walk every day. It could be spending some time journaling. It could be some time meditating, or just making sure that there are some small pauses throughout your day. Because rest doesn't need to mean taking a month away from your business. Sometimes it's just about protecting the space in your day that will allow you to think more clearly. And with rest, there's also something else which is really important, and that is joy. For many tutors, one of the reasons that we left teaching was the hope that our work could fit more naturally around our lives. And that might look like meeting a friend for coffee during the day. I often meet my mum for coffee during the day, and it's lovely. It could be getting your nails done if that's what you enjoy. It could be sitting down and actually eating some lunch instead of working through it and maybe eating at your desk. It could be going for a morning walk before you start your lessons. It could be booking a term time holiday. None of these things are dramatic, but they are the very reasons why we wanted a different way of working in the first place. And when we build those moments of rest and joy into the rhythm of our business, then something shifts and it's really special because we start to see things more clearly. We make better decisions, and that business then becomes something that supports our life rather than competing with it. So, if you take one thing away from this episode, it could be this: rest is not something that happens once the business is successful, whatever that success means for you. It's something that helps the business become sustainable. One useful question to ask yourself occasionally could be this: which of those things that I did this week actually moved the business forward? Which things just made me busy? Because when you start to focus on impact instead of just the hours that you work, something starts to happen. You begin to do more of the things that are working and let go of some of the things that were just filling your time. Because this tutoring business doesn't just need systems and strategy, it also needs space for rest and joy. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe for more support, strategies, and maybe some inspiration to help you grow a tutoring business that feels aligned and sustainable. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you when we have our next episode.